Welcome to Two Bitches in a Broom podcast. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode. And this week's episode, we're going to dive into kind of like the current energetic climate right now and how it relates to things that are coming up for individuals. Also, limiting beliefs, being challenged in your belief structure. And where you limit yourself. So I look at it as like expansion.
Yeah.
And an opportunity for expansion. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
So I don't know about you, but this is kind of like a hot topic this past week of trials and tribulations people are going through. And when you look underneath that, it is bringing to the forefront, where you hold yourself back or where you hold any shadow aspects.
Yeah. I think at least in my observation, we are having this kind of incessant exposure of negative news. The underlying currents of the social or environmental happenings. I'm trying to find the right words. So no matter what you do, and I've heard a lot of people say, I don't even watch TV anymore. And it's like, yeah, but you walk around with that phone.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's just like the TV just got traded out for your phone. Your phone is basically your source of everything. I mean, for like 99% of humanity right now.
And I think it's leaving a lot of people confused, anxious, disconnected from their authentic self. And what I really want to stress is that my team in particular, and I've already, told you this, Krys, but just for the audience at large, my team in particular had said, us as mentors have to come from a space where we're not talking about things to induce fear, because that's just going to lower your vibration. It's going to be horrible for you. It's to point out the things for you to reflect on and say, what can I change to better be in alignment with my authentic self that feels good to me, that feels true to me, and that I can live a productive human experience without negativity kind of pounding into my brain everywhere I look. And I think one of the first steps in preventing any negative influence from affecting you is and I've said this a million times, the very first step is bringing the unconscious to the conscious awareness. And the moment that you do that, you're already beginning to heal it, because you are saying, oh, I recognize that this is making me feel this way. So as soon as you do that, your brain automatically starts going, okay, this is something that he or she doesn't want to do. Let's problem solve. So that's it. Just bringing it from the unconscious to the conscious is already going to make a huge dent in it. And I mean, that's just from my personal perspective. What do you think?
I do agree with that, because I say it all the time, and those that listen and watch it that already know me or have worked with me know that I'm a broken record when it comes to this. Is acknowledgement goes so far. People, I find, sometimes people can tend to fall immediately into the emotion, and then it's like a domino effect after that, right?
Sure.
But when you take a step back and you just acknowledge, this is, like you said, like, this is making me feel this way, you put yourself in a better position to kind of dig out that root in a I like to call like the student seat. So like the student seat rather than succumbing to the emotion and the experience, does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I feel like for practitioners, this is the part that like gets me. Probably just my personal opinion, but if you are a practitioner on any level in the metaphysical world, it's about empowerment and acknowledgement and the tools for that person you're working with to take forward and adapt in their life, right? But if you are just staying in that like fear mode or continuously talking about it, like it's fine to talk about current events or things that are happening in people's lives because it is what it is. It's human
Yeah.
experience. It's where we're at. But where is the empowering tools that you're leaving behind?
Yeah.
Like again, like you've heard, I'm sure all our listeners have heard us talk about this before. Like, what ripple effect are you giving out?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think while the current world energies can pose challenges,
Mm-hmm.
it also presents an opportunity for growth
Mm-hmm.
through self-mastery by staying attuned to your inner landscape, employing preventative measures, recognizing any signs that you have within yourself that, hey, I'm energetically imbalanced right now. You can kind of navigate that, and
Mm-hmm.
that will instill grace and resilience, within you.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that there's a lot of people, in my opinion, let me start off with that. I think there's a lot of people that can watch different things and go, oh my gosh. So I'm just going to throw the first one out there
Mm-hmm.
because why not? Um, Food that is not edible. There's like berries and blueberries, strawberries, guacamole and watermelon is what I observed. That
Mm-hmm.
literally one woman cut a blueberry. I'm sorry, I think her husband did cut a blueberry in half because when she went to go throw the rest down the sink, because she fed it to her toddler, when she threw it down the sink and turned the garbage disposal on, there was a rattling that was
Mm-hmm.
happening. And
Mm-hmm.
she pulled out this blueberry that was hard yet squishy. And she's like, what the heck is this? Her husband cut it in half and it was made of silicone, is what they perceive it to be made out of. And it was put on video. And then, of course, you know, I click the little button that's like at the top heading for
Mm-hmm.
food news. It's literally at the top heading. And, I seen it with guacamole. I seen it with watermelon.
Mm-hmm.
I
I've
saw,
seen it with a banana.
oh, I forgot about that one. You're right.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And, that can be really like, what the heck? Our food, this is what we digest. And that's really, again, what does that do?
Mm-hmm.
That's very fear. That's a lot of fear because you're like, this is what sustains my body. Yeah, I recommend going to a farmer's market. That's what I recommend. I'm
Mm-hmm.
in the city. So if I can find a farmer's market, I think anybody can. You can find them. You can find them. Look for them.
Right. Right.
You can do it.
Yeah.
Um, and there's even some farmer's market, like the one that I go to, that will actually ship it. That you just give them your address and they will ship
Mm-hmm.
it to your home. They will have some guy in a truck come and bring a box of whatever you want to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
fantastic. So is it doable? Yes. Is it more than if you were to walk into Kroger's? Yeah. Yeah, it is. But that's okay because you're going to have better stuff that's going to feed your body more. You're going to have more nutrients and you're going to want less stuff in the long
Mm-hmm.
run. So, yeah, I know that that's weird, but I think a lot of people that are watching stuff like this are going, am I crazy if I believe this? Especially in this digital age where you're going,
Mm-hmm.
anything can be like false produced, you
Oh
know?
yeah. Especially with the rise of the use of AI and
Yeah.
CGI, it's really people are being challenged, which I find interesting,
Mhm.
of your belief system and and again, like the real I know we've spoken about this before too, but I have been told from my team that this is only going to increase. Right when we talked about this a long time ago, you and I privately about just what's to come this year and
Yeah.
whatnot. And here we are. This is why I find it even more fascinating, because here we are witnessing the acceleration of these experiences and these things that are going on.
Mhm.
And I find people are really now again like, I don't know what to believe, because the advancement of AI, CGI, and you can put so many things on, you don't know what's real and what's not. But when I look at that, right, I look at that also of, wow, look at how it's also making you turn inward to
Mhm.
face your own discernment and not allowing yourself to be spoon fed, right? Because the energy we're leaving is spoon fed, believe this, do this, work this way. This is how societal programming was.
Yeah.
But now we're moving into a more independent energy of self,
Mhm.
the God consciousness awakening within self of each individual.
Right.
So when I look at that kind of stuff, yeah, I look at it in multiple, because that's just me, in different facets of, one, it's opening everyone up to all that was hidden, which is now come to light.
Yeah.
Two, it is also challenging your internal compass, and where your perspective lies, what reality you choose, right? You
Mhm.
choose to experience. Um, and three, even like with the food example, so I'm a solution based thinker. So, you know, with solution for that, farmers market, fantastic. There's a lot more now popping up everywhere. More and more farmers markets are coming up. More and more people are turning to family owned farms to get, private family owned butcher shops, stuff like that,
Sure.
versus mass produced. And I think of it too also of, wow, look at how divinely choreographed that connection
Yeah.
back to people, we're getting. Um,
And I
I
think
feel
it's
like,
interesting that there's so many people that had started gardens,
oh
like their
yeah,
own little garden
yeah,
that had never explored it before. Uh,
mm-hmm,
I think that was very, very interesting where they're like, yeah, that's just what I want to do. And there's people that are literally in high rises that have
yeah,
vegetable gardens on
oh
their
yeah,
outside little
mm-hmm,
terrace, you know?
yeah.
And I'm like, it's just amazing how that inner voice within was like, oh, I should do this. They're being guided to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then too, like on the topic of limiting beliefs, that's a good example of, a high rise. And I've seen a ton of them. I love to see it. Even others that haven't started yet, I've seen started collecting seeds
Hmm.
and kind of making plans, or like hydroponics,
Hmm.
ways to go. So on the topic of limiting belief, for those individuals who are in high rises, they're not out where they have access to dirt. that was a challenge. So what's the solution?
Yeah.
Do pot gardening.
Yeah.
So get yourself that, or even like the hydroponics. I saw a tutorial of how to create a system with the freaking storage tubs that we
Yeah.
use to put stuff. And I think, look at that.
Yeah.
Everybody has the opportunity,
Yeah.
especially now during this time, to break free from
Hmm.
any kind of like limiting belief structure. I
Hmm.
think more people are starting to recognize that you create your own reality.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I will say, it is can be perceived as challenging because other things break down in order for you to build. But if
Hmm.
you keep yourself in the perspective of what breaks down makes room for new, better, bigger, and whatever,
Hmm.
again, remember like when we were talking about earlier when we started this episode of just staying with like that source. What did you call it? Pain points. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stick with that, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Because that was I think that every time we hear something, right, or we
Mm-hmm.
see something, this is definitely what was told to me anyways, by my team, was people are starting to feel mentally isolated, right? Because they did exactly what I did, right? I clicked it and I said, oh wow, look at all these different videos from all these individuals, and how interesting is that? Can I say I have experienced it? I can't. I can just say that's what we're seeing out there. And um my guides were pointing out that where I have the discernment to go, that's interesting, sidebar it and go, that's my personal experience at this time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. A lot of people automatically go into fear,
Mm-hmm.
right? Oh no, this is affecting our food source. So when we go into that fear of what do I do now, then we're lowering our vibration. And then
Right.
you keep going down the rabbit hole of
Mm-hmm.
finding more and more and more information in regards to it. And then you're like, I want to tell my friends, I want to tell my family. And your friends or family may not want to hear it, or they're like, yeah, I think it's garbage. And you're like, no, it's a real thing. It's really happening. And it can make you feel isolated and that nobody understands your perspective,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yes.
And unfortunately, that's just going to do more energetic harm. So
Mm-hmm.
I believe, and I've always said this, what you perceive is what you believe, and what you believe becomes your reality. That's it. It's that simple. So I am very conscious when I say, how interesting. I haven't yet adopted that belief. I
Mm-hmm.
find it interesting. How
Yep.
interesting is that? How creative of you to um, attract that into your life. How interesting. I don't want that shit. So
Right, right.
interesting. I'm going to put that over here and I'm going to say, I'm not experiencing that. Thank you. I have not
Mm-hmm.
experienced that. And I like not experiencing that. So
Yeah.
I'm not putting my head in the sand and saying, this does not exist. But I'm also not going to allow myself to be overwhelmed. I think maybe that's a good word, being overwhelmed with the thought process of this is happening. This causes me to be in danger of lack and without, not
Mm-hmm.
having enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's why I live by the code of man. Everything's fascinating. Isn't that interesting? Wow.
So
And then when
interesting.
I see all like stuff like that, because I'm nosy, so I'm going to click on the link and I'm going to explore. But looking at all that stuff, I think, and I've told this to clients too, when you're looking at that, look at that and you're like, wow, that's crazy. Not in my experience, not in my life.
Yeah.
Kind of the way that you watch, um, like a fantasy movie or
Sure.
any kind of movie you would go to the theater to watch, you're not attaching yourself to it. You're
Yeah.
just being entertained at the moment by it, right?
That's a
Um,
perfect
yeah.
description. Yeah. I mean, always it is right, using that mindfulness right here, right now. I'm safe, I'm secure, everything's fine, all my needs are met, but I'm being entertained through
Mm-hmm.
this information that makes me, when I watch it, feel what are you feeling? Are you feeling lack? Are you feeling fear? Are you feeling that you may not have enough? Because if you are
Mm-hmm.
feeling those emotions, it's a good time, again, not to stick your head in the sand and say, this does not exist. You're not bypassing anything. You're saying that's very
Mm-hmm.
interesting, not my personal experience. I'm going to set that over there,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's the only way you're going to prevent your vibration from being affected. That's
Right.
the only
Yeah.
way you're going to. Otherwise, every single video that you're on and you're scrolling past, it's going to bring you further and further and further down.
Yeah. Oh, and then just, too, would like to stick with that point also. When you're allowing yourself to become attached to it, your frequency just starts to drop because you're allowing yourself to be overwhelmed by the energy and that fear. And
Mhm.
then what happens? You just continue to get examples
Mhm.
of what you're emitting out. So if that's what
Yeah,
you want to put out, great, go for it, run with it. But if
absolutely.
that doesn't feel good for you, again, acknowledgement goes a long way, my friend.
It does.
It's so simple and it's so powerful.
So let's talk about something that doesn't necessarily evoke fear, but makes you think that there's no way possible this is happening. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
Mm-hmm.
reach that one.
Yeah.
I saw a gentleman who was, and I'm a stone girl. And in this particular area, there's this gigantic, enormous, what appears to be a rock. He took and was hand digging around it. And he said that face is the face of a dragon. That is a dragon. He went and got a high powered water pressured thing. I don't know the correct terminology, but it's a water
Uh-huh.
pressured thing.
Yeah.
And he was clearing out all the way around it and on top of it. And I challenge anybody to not say that that doesn't look like a dragon because it does. I'm watching it and I'm like, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also being observant to see what people's responses are. And this is where those limiting beliefs that you were referring to is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was looking at the responses and they're like, yeah, it's a rock. You need help, you need a hobby. There were so many like just perspectives and comments that were hurtful. Just really, I would be sad if somebody wrote those things, in regards to or in attacking his mental stability, his character.
Mm.
And yeah, I mean, you could clearly see the little arm and the claw, and I mean, it was amazing to me. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so in his theory, he's like, and he's being very honest. He's like, I don't know if it was shaped like that. I don't know if it really was that, and it turned into that, like petrified wood, which makes sense,
Right, right,
you
right.
know. And I'm like, huh, interesting. But if you close yourself off completely and you go, this guy is batshit nuts because it's a rock, you're limiting your perspective to what possibly
Mhm.
could have been a long time ago, could have been forever ago.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we know that wood petrifies. Why do we not perceive that that could petrify into a hardened state? I don't know. It's interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting. I do think that I do feel that people who do that, I just like my mind just goes, if you can accept that at one point in time, dinosaurs walk this realm,
That's exactly what I
are
said.
you telling me that it's not as it's so much of a stretch
Yeah.
to accept or even be open to the idea? Doesn't mean you have to accept it, but be
Yeah.
open to the idea
Right.
that possibly dragons could have existed as well, right? And I just I find it again interesting that there's so many people that hold that immediately shut it down, right?
Yeah.
No. But I also, what I find even more interesting about that is how that applies to, because I'm always perplexed by humanity and how humans operate and stuff. But
Mhm.
I also think, wow, if you're so quick to shut that down, how interesting would it be? Like, it, I'm curious to what other aspects of your life that you close yourself off to and your experiences and
Ah,
how where that plays out, because it's going to show up in other areas of that person's life, right? So if you immediately are like that, I think, wow, like you're not, and to me, like you're not living in color.
well, I mean, obviously I talk to dead people, so I have a pretty open mind,
Right, right.
I understand that not everybody does that, and not everybody believes that it is even something that could have a possibility, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And I believe that when you shut yourself off that much and you put yourself in a box that much, your life must be really, really boring. And
mm-hmm,
they agree.
mm-hmm.
My life, your life must be really, really boring.
Said check,
Yeah.
check, check.
Yeah. And B, you must have a very narrow scope of probability, which is different
Mm-hmm.
than possibility. Those are
Right, right.
totally different things. So is it probable? Well, there's lots of books that were written, you know, in the
Mm-hmm.
13th, 14th, and 15th century that all had dragons in them.
Yeah.
So that's how I base things off of, like, is it a probability? Maybe. I don't know. Is it going to make a difference in my path in life? I don't think so. Why am
Right.
I going to get, my chuckles up and be like, oh, absolutely not. You're mental and you need help and intervention and a hobby and all this stuff. No, no, I don't know. Probability,
Yeah.
possibility, different thing.
Right. I feel like that is a that's a good point to make with individuals.
I'm
I like
sorry.
this conversation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
I'm like
really it is.
hearing at the same time this is happening.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean,
It
I'm
is.
going to tell you right now, from my team, and this is on camera, from my team, they absolutely did exist. And I will stand by that until I die because that's what I'm hearing. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a real
Yeah.
thing.
I'm with you on that. I feel like I've always felt like, again, holding this kind of perspective, even if it's if it's if it's able to come through in someone's imagination, it has to come from somewhere.
Hmm.
I don't believe that um, it's pure imagination and it didn't stem from some source, that's, if that makes sense. So yeah, I do. I feel like creator, great spirit, God, whatever label you choose to use,
Yeah.
all that is, has no limitation on anything.
I agree.
Therefore, everything that one can imagine and fathom, riddle me this, Batman, has existed on some level, somewhere in some plane,
Yeah.
stuff like that. That's my belief system. So I take, again, like even with the point that you're making of, um, you know, allowing yourself and like how closed off you are with all these things that are happening in the current collective and the world, and we're if the veil is thinning, let's just say this, if the veil is thinning and we are moving into an existence of no longer having that said veil, wouldn't everything start to come up for each individual to choose what they want to perceive as their experience, right? If we talk about this as one big Sims game, and
Yeah.
we are creating our character, we've created our character, we're creating our existence, then all of the stuff that's happening right now, I feel like, is just challenging you in where you hold limitations. If you are created from a limitless creator,
Sure.
why do we hold ourselves back in whatever way,
Yeah.
So even if you don't believe that there's dragons, whatever, that's your belief system. But I challenge you to take any new piece of information that you come across where immediately you would think, ain't no fucking way, and just hold off on that for a second and allow yourself to just take it a grain of salt.
Yeah, I think if we were to go back 8 years ago, people would be saying there's no such thing as aliens. It's so crazy. What are you talking about? Blah, 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 blah.
Right.
We just had a disclosure from our government this year that says, oh, yeah, by the way, they've always existed. You just weren't ready to hear it yet,
Right.
I think it's very narrow-minded to not allow yourself the opportunity to say probably, maybe, possibly,
And at the same time,
that opening is going to make a huge difference.
oh yeah, absolutely. And then at the same time, keeping in mind that it's okay. It's okay for you to say what Charlie just said. And at the same time, have that awareness too, that even if, what is it affecting on my path?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know whoever needed to hear that, but it's okay for you to explore all of these amazing, wonderful things that opportunities. I don't like to look at anything really in like a negative aspect. I look at it as opportunities.
Yeah.
All these opportunities to expand your awareness, but also in the same breath, you're focusing on your own path. It's not directly affecting your path. It's okay for you to do that. I don't know who's listening or watching this and needs fucking permission to let yourself do that, but truly,
I think that if we were to go back in, the 1800s and we were to approach somebody, which isn't that far off, peeps, but if we were to go back and we were to say, 42% of the population is neurodivergent and their brains do not function like yours do, and people learn differently. And even in social climates, they're different. They would go, that's impossible.
Right.
You know what I
mean?
So we have to be willing to learn. We have to be willing to be open to experience new perspectives. It doesn't mean you have to adopt them. It doesn't mean
exactly
you have to jump on that. It just means to be open to the probability. That's all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we'll wrap it up on that note, unless there's any final thing that you want to put in on this topic.
No, I think that
Yeah.
was good. So I
Good.
hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yes. Thank you. And I guess we'll check you all in the next one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Arselin fake avocado sin Texas.
Se partió.
There you go.
The internet is mad that Costco is selling fake bananas. Watch.
That she opened the banana that she thinks that these are not real bananas.
So they got this banana from Costco, and as you can see, that is an unusual bend for breakage on a banana that should have broken already. And people are starting to suspect that this is a fake banana. This happened on April 16th. I just did a video called "The Internet is Mad at Sam's Club for Selling Fake Fruit" 2 days ago. And what everybody's speculating between these two videos is this.
Juicy sizzling steak, made by computer.
That's right, they believe that if they can 3D print meat, they can 3D print watermelons and bananas. And that both Sam's Club and Costco are selling these fake fruits. But what do you guys think about the situation? Do you think that Sam's Club and Costco are selling fake fruits to save on price? Let me know in the comments, like, share, and follow, and this is your Bald News Backup.
When it pulls, it's like it's glue.
So I just opened these blueberries. This is the brand. I bought them at Publix. From Santa Cruz, California. That's where it says they're from. I opened them up to start rinsing them. What on earth is this? It's like paint on the blueberry. Like I scraped off this little spot here. Like, see how it's scraping? Why are my blueberries have paint on them? You can see the little flake of... Can somebody please explain what the heck they are doing with our food now?
Fake foods in the store you ain't know. If it's in a pack, take it back. The fake cheese don't melt, the real does. But stay away from the dairy anyway, because the dairy is terrible for you, full of bugs. Put your rice in the pan, heat it up. If it's clear, it's plastic. I've seen people roll the rice up into a ball and bounce it off the floor. So this is baby food. They about to run a magnet over the baby food, pull out all the metals. You got metals in your baby's food. So yeah, these are the real and the fake supplements. The fake ain't gonna bake. You wanna put that in your body, it don't even dissolve. And a lot of these supplements aren't what they claim to be. Some of them are just sand. That's not fat in your meat, people. That's meat glue. So you're eating meat with glue. That's terrible. This is bubbling up because there's washing powder in the ice cream. Yeah.